The AI is now plugged into over 200 companies. Let's dive in so that your wisdom can blossom. Go with the classic opening move of looking at financial statements. Consolidated balance sheet for Boxlight Corporation. More than twice as much accounts receivables as they have cash, and almost twice as much inventories as they have accounts receivables. This is a company that needs to start selling whatever it is that they do. Income statement. Sales are increasing despite everything I'm saying about inventory. However, the last year, as good as it was only just enough to get them out of losing territory. They have only just swung into profit mode. Overall, though, net income is still negative, and that boils down to the interest on that long-term debt. Isn't necessarily a worry, but not great that it's literally the difference between them being profitable or not. This is what earnings per share has done in the last 2 years. Statement of cash flows. Ooh, okay, so the company is issuing debt. It's also paying back a backlog of taxes. Its inventory is actually not really being invested in despite being so large. And while all this is going on, they're still paying out millions of dollars worth of stock-based expense. If we calculate the inventory turnover here, now going into gathering facts, inventory turnover is going to be revenue divided by inventory. I'm going to use a quick calculator because I do want to get a more precise number for this. But 221 million in revenue divided by 58 in inventory, 58 million. We have a inventory turnover of 3.81. Now dividing 365 days in a year by 3.81. It's taking this business about 3 months and a week, so let's round that to 13 weeks in order to sell its inventory. Now comparing that to last year where we had 51 million in inventories and 185 million in revenue, that was 3.6. Last year it took this business 101 days. So they've reduced the time to sell inventory by about a week. This is positive progress. The question now really is this enough? And that begins to depend on what exactly is the management's take on it. We're gonna pop straight to the item 7. I wanna see the CEO's office discuss how inventory is being managed and how their sales are being managed more actually. So the CEO's office says we are a technology company that develops, sells, and services interactive solutions for the global education market. We are seeking to become a worldwide leading innovator and integrator of interactive products and software solutions that improve collaboration and effective communication in meeting environments. They design, produce, distribute flat panel displays, LED video walls, media players, classroom audio, and campus communication, cameras, and peripherals, including digital signage. Unfortunately, the CEO's office not mentioning the process of the sales channel at all. A little disappointing, really. They don't have to. There's no legal requirement for them to talk about what I want them to talk about. But given what we saw in the opening move, not a good sign that the management does not care enough about what we're seeing in order to even acknowledge it. Let's go to the item 1. We might even have to go into risk factors to see if, at least in risk factors, they're talking about how high inventory has been staying. Remember, that inventory of over 50 million was not being added to in the last year. That means they've been having that inventory that high for a long, long time. I'm starting to see why they don't talk about inventory. This company is international. That's a good thing. In order for there to be any meaningful development on the income statement that we were seeing, there would need to be congruency between all these nodes. Now that's not a bad thing, but this is a company that I think the market cap is less than $20 million. I mean, I'm not even gonna count, but this is well over a dozen separate entities. They've grown a little bit faster than maybe made sense. They are describing different product lines, but they just read like the back of a cereal box type of things. You know, they're just kind of giving you the sales blurb, which is good and honestly might be interesting. But first, before I get into the specific sale lines, I want to see first, why does such a small company have this many sales lines, sale product lines? Over a dozen separate entities working together. I've now been scrolling at 4, now 5, 6, 7, there we go, 7 full pages of an annual report, which by the way, 7 pages of an annual report is dense, but 7 full pages of brand new or completely separate products that they sell. This is a small company, guys. What are you doing here? Okay, sales and marketing. You guys have 100 account managers that cover 800 resellers. Hey, if you're getting more comfortable uncovering the stories behind the numbers, please like and subscribe. And so that's 8 resellers per account manager. Since we know it takes them a little over 3 months to make a sale based on the inventory turnover, each account manager is looking at 2, maybe 3 sales concurrently at a time. You guys are selling LED screens. Now, they're not the same as TVs, but I'm pretty sure that if Best Buy, just as an example, if their salespeople were only selling 2 or 3 TVs at a time every 3 months, they wouldn't last very long at a Best Buy. Why does the education market have to be so different that we can't make that comparison? Now, I fully recognize that they're having much more fancier equipment than just TVs at Best Buy, but there's a big discrepancy there. Here we have their risk factors. You might notice they didn't spend a lot of time on it. It's not efficiency in their sales team, it's the ability to attract and retain customers. I mean, the fact that customers are the main risk, I think this is the story, guys. An inefficient sales team in probably a good industry with probably good products, but a sales team that isn't efficient, clearly, and a management that's not blaming them at all. Not even a little bit. And blame is a strong word, but at least tell investors that you're aware that you could improve, because you clearly could improve in terms of your sales cycle. None of this is acknowledging that. I hope they, get easy sales, but we are now going to consult with the Sage Seeds AI. I'm having a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, but this is why it's helpful to have an AI. How big a deal is this actually? Please like, subscribe, share this with your friends, get them in on it. We're trying on this channel to develop an intuition whether the story I'm unraveling is or is not a value story. They're changing meeting rooms and education rooms all over the world. The possibilities of the next gen. If anyone wants to look into those product descriptions in more detail, share with us, how cool is it actually? I mean, many of us haven't been in school for certainly long enough to probably not necessarily recognize it. Some of us might have young children, might be seeing how the evolution has played out over the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades even or more. What's going on in these classrooms, and is it a sign of times to come for all of us? It tends to be that the kids pick up some innovative technology skills. A couple years later, offices then transform in order to match that energy. In the comments below, let's share our wisdom, and after, please share this video. BOXL is ranked 122 out of 244. That is actually literally the 50th percentile. That is right in the middle of value for the 2022 season. Higher ranking than I was imagining in my head, so thanks to the Sage Seeds AI, I'm gonna interpret what's going on. This company doesn't have the most efficient sales. At the same time, Sage Seeds AI is a lot more interested, not necessarily in how quickly that is being sold off, but in how almost no additional capital is being soaked up in maintaining or increasing that inventory. In fact, the company has seemed content to let that inventory dwindle down super slowly, but legitimately dwindle down. That's the same thing as saying is this company, all it has to do is sell products that it already has. Maybe that's where the chill culture is coming from, is that they realize that they're in a pretty solid position. Could they be higher up in the ranking if they just got a bit more motivated to make this efficient? I'm sure they could, but that's not necessarily the highest barrier to entry. And when the Sage Seeds AI contextualizes this with the rest of the companies of the 2022 season, it realizes about half of these other companies could be worse.